Samhain, among many things, has been a time to honour the dearly departed. But what happens when the dearly departed want to join in on the festivities? The recently departed Lady Zabrina is driven by insatiable hunger for revenge, and God help anyone who's in her vicinity when the hunger takes hold. This is Love, Death, Eat, Repeat, numbers 1 and 2. Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus Comics, where we are more than just your average geek. Of course, I'm your host for today, Cross, and we are back with another comic book review for you as I check out Love, Death, Eat, Repeat, numbers 1 and 2 from Scifantasy Ink. Scifantasy Ink is a British publisher who I connected with on social media. Massive shout out to them as they sent out these copies for us to check out and have a look at here on the channel. So I'm going to put the link for their website and social media down below. They're an awesome company with about 9 different titles out at the moment and a bunch more currently in development. So go and check out some of their amazing stuff. Always excited to shout out some of the amazing publishing work going on over in the UK, over in my homeland. So massive shout out to them. Definitely go check out Scifantasy Ink. And we are going to delve a little bit into what they say is the inspiration for Love, Death, Eat and Repeat, because quoted from their website, it's a story inspired by true events and archaeological evidence. So the story is set in the medieval village of Warren Percy. Stories about dead rising and evil people lingering on have been prevalent around the world, and including in the UK. It's something that's been around for a long time, and some of the only ways to deal with bodies have been stuff like if you believe that someone was coming back from the dead or at risk of it, beheadings, dismemberment and burning of the bodies was usually the way to deal with it and to stop the curse. This is just mere medieval superstition though, or at least it would be if it wasn't for an archaeological find that right outside the real life village that this is set, they found a mass grave with multiple bodies of varying ages that had been beheaded, burned and buried in this site over a period of 300 years rather than in the churchyard, which is very unheard of in medieval times, especially for a grave that large with that many in it. So on the Scifantasy Ink website, there's a link to a video that talks about the real life finding of this. And I'll put a link for that down below so that you can go and check it out for yourself. Very fascinating watch to kind of delve into, especially prior to jumping into the comic, just because it's really cool that it's kind of got a, don't get me wrong, it's still a basis, there's no real life zombies, but to have some mythos behind the creation of this, it always adds a little something to me in the comics. So I definitely go check this out before diving in. But we aren't here to jump into the real life story of that. We are here to jump into the comic that was inspired by it. So let's get ready to jump on. And before we do though, please make sure that you head down below, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment down below. It really does help us out in the algorithm. Let us know some of your favourite zombie stories down below in those comments. And we are going to get ready to jump into Love even. I'm getting the words, like I have getting these words muddled up so much trying to record this. So Love, Death, Eat, Repeat. There we go. Numbers 1 and 2. Let's dive on in. Love, Death, Eat, Repeat, numbers 1 and 2 are written by Karen and Carol Hemmings, better known by their singular pen name KK Hemmings. Artwork is by Dimitrios Stamadianos. Colours are from Alfredo Rodriguez Murillo. and lettering by Serhii Yarovyl. Our issues begin at the North Manor, home of Lord and Lady Percy, in the early hours of the 31st of October, 1345. A strange illness has taken Lady Zabrina, and the doctor is struggling to cure her ailment. He tried applying leeches through the night, but to no avail, and requests Lord Percy allow him to try trepanning, the process of boring a hole in Lady Zabrina's head, as the next course of treatment. Lord Percy is adamantly against this procedure, and throws the doctor out, claiming that he is no healer, but a harbinger of death. As the evening beckons, Lady Zabrina lies on her deathbed, with her husband and children by her side, and the local priest is present to deliver last rites. Lady Zabrina's ruby ring that she wears has been glowing from within, in the presence of an evil curse, and at the moment of her death, unbeknownst to everyone, the ruby transforms from a smooth stone to a multifaceted gem. Lady Zabrina is transferred to an open casket. Lord Percy stands by her side and says his goodbyes to her. He takes her hand as tears start to well in his eyes. But when he turns to walk away, her hand grasps him and won't let go. Lady Zabrina's eyes open wide, and her mind is filled with one word, getting louder and louder and louder in her mind. Eat. 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 She launches herself up in the coffin and grabs her husband tightly, biting into his neck and beginning to devour him. As she holds her dead husband, Lady Zabrina begins to think, I am become hunger. Lady Zabrina then makes her way through her home, and she first visits the bedroom of her sons, followed by her daughter's bedroom. And before they can fully understand what is happening, all 4 children are consumed by their mother. The Percy family are all transformed into the undead, just as Lady Zabrina is. Lady Zabrina continues her journey through North Manor, still driven by her insatiable hunger, but now she is also accompanied by her undead family, who feel driven to stay close to their undead creator. The family soon swarm all the staff in the manor, with them also being consumed and added to Lady Zabrina's horde of undead. Once the North Manor is cleared of all living souls, Lady Zabrina and her family make their way to the South Manor of the village. The lady of the house is warned that it sounds like wild animals are outside, and she demands that her servant Mortimer defends her. Mortimer stands his ground, and with an axe in hand he beheads one of the undead. But when he realises that the head on the ground is still moving and making noises, he decides to turn tail and run, abandoning his mistress to the hands of Lady Zabrina, who along with her family begin to devour her. Held tight in the iron grip of the evil curse, Lady Zabrina is driven to devour all living beings. With every kill, Zabrina falls deeper and deeper into an abyss and loses more and more of herself, consumed and driven by a single drive, satiating the hunger that she feels. Mortimer makes his way to the nearby village to warn them of what has happened, but no one takes him seriously, believing it to be a Samhain prank, and he is just trying to scare them. But either way, they can clear it all up because here come the Percys now. Mortimer takes off and heads to the local tavern to warn them of the evil that has just arrived. But before he even gets a chance to try and convince them, he is toppled by a rampaging horde of the undead that has already taken out everyone in the open. Some warriors in the tavern think they can put a stop to Lady Zabrina, but very quickly she and her undead eat through everyone in the tavern and continue on in search of their next victims. The only survivor of the tavern massacre is the plague doctor that had tried to tend to Lady Zabrina at the start of the story. He had been drinking in the tavern and been able to slip away, but as he looks on at what is happening, he decides that he needs to talk to the Council of Elders and let them know what is happening. As the undead move on looking for their next meal, they find the only other place that seems to still be available to them at this time of night, the church. The survivors of the attack have all made their way there in hopes of standing on sacred and holy grounds, and that will protect them from any evil, or at the very least, allow them a stronghold to hold off the undead. However, as the priest holds up his crucifix and tries to drive the undead away, Lady Zabrina takes it from him and drives it into his head. As the people run away and try to find another exit, they knock over candles in the church and the building is set ablaze. Some are trapped and killed in the building, while a few make it outside only to find themselves in a cemetery with unclimbable walls and a locked gate, having only delayed the inevitable. Held between life and death by the curse placed on her and the ruby that she wears, Lady Zabrina's rage grows and begins to call the undead out of their graves. She uses superhuman strength to pick up a toppled stone angel and throw it through the locked gates, so she and her followers can continue their walk across the land. As they leave the burning village behind them, a stagecoach begins to steer to avoid the chaos, but it's too late. The driver is taken and Lady Zabrina claims the horse. She is driven by an ever-growing sense of urgency and has an instinctual call of what direction to take. She finds a cavalcade of peasants and performers celebrating Samhain, and although they look dead, she can smell they are alive, and her hunger grows. As issue 2 begins, Lady Zabrina does not attack the Samhain partiers, but rather accompanies the procession as it makes its way to Wolfstone Castle, the ancestral home of Count and Countess Ravenshand. As the Count and Countess are known for extravagant parties on Samhain, the guards don't think twice about the rowdy group approaching and instead open the gates to allow them in. The guards pay no mind to Lady Zabrina, except to leer and gawk at her, not realising the danger that their distraction puts everybody in. As the blood moon is still high in the sky, Lady Zabrina feels strangely connected to it and begins to make her way around the party. She's drawn towards the kids that are bobbing for apples, and on approach she has a flash of an old memory. It fills her with so much rage that she lashes out and holds one of the kids' heads under the water, only releasing when she's aware of a fire breather blasting flames near her, and as quickly as it came, her rage has subsided and she moves on, with the child thankfully still alive. Lady Zabrina still feels the call and urge to pursue something, but cannot seem to find a clear goal of what or who that she should be after. This leads her to continue to wander around the festivities until she mindlessly walks through the firing range, where she is pierced through the stomach by an arrow meant for the target that was behind her. Enraged, she picks up a jack-o'-lantern and hurls it towards the archer, barely missing him with it. As the people see her still alive, they can only assume that it was all part of the festivities and continue with the celebration. A fortune teller recognises who Lady Zabrina is and beckons her into her tent. Her gifts are real, and she is able to see into the past of Zabrina, seeing her life as a princess and her relationship with Lord Percy. However, the fortune teller also sees the plague doctor from the previous issue and tells Lady Zabrina that he sought her death and he was the one that filled her chalice with a poison curse. As the fortune teller sees Lady Zabrina's activities from Samhain Night, it reignites her bloodlust and she devours the fortune teller as she has done to so many others on this night. Before she continues on, Lady Zabrina is drawn to the player's marquee. Feeling all the beating hearts inside, she wants to venture in, as they should assuage her ferocious appetite. The Plague Doctor is also at this party, seeking aid from Count Ravenshand to try to contain the evil that has been unleashed. But no sooner have these thoughts crossed his mind than he spots Lady Zabrina. She enters the player's marquee. They attempt to send her away as they are not ready to perform just yet, but instead she gorges herself on them. The Plague Doctor bursts in on Count Ravenshand and his guests as they are feasting, to tell them what has transpired this night. The Count, of course, cannot believe such foolishness taking place, but the Plague Doctor says that he will take him and show him for himself what has happened. They go to the player's marquee, where the Count demands that the curtain be raised, and when it is, everyone sees Lady Zabrina sitting in a chair like it's her throne, with a skull in her lap, all while the players from the show are tearing each other to pieces. As the undead realise there are more people nearby, they begin to slowly make their way off of the stage, and the Plague Doctor ushers Count Ravenshand away, yelling at everyone to run. Lady Zabrina begins her pursuit of the Plague Doctor, but he disappears into the crowd. She attempts to pursue further, but he's successfully hidden himself. The rest of the undead massacre the partygoers that are unfortunate enough to get in their way. Remembering that she's seen the Count and Countess with the Plague Doctor, Lady Zabrina turns her attention to them and begins to pursue. She chases them along the battlements and corners them when they reach a break in the wall and are trapped between the gap and Lady Zabrina. Right as she is about to make the killing blow, in the corner of her eye, she sees the Plague Doctor outside of the walls and making his escape. Filled with rage at the prospect of losing her target, Lady Zabrina leaps from the battlements and through the air to the ground below. Unfortunately, she falls short of her target, and instead of reaching the Plague Doctor, she splashes down in the shallow waters of the salt marsh surrounding Woldstone. She is now trapped in the bog and unable to free herself to continue her pursuit. The more she struggles, the deeper and deeper she sinks. Feeling the magic from her ring slipping away, and that she is being dragged down to the depths of hell, desperate to survive by any means possible, Lady Zabrina sees a zombified cat that followed her through a gap in the wall. And the issues come to a close, with Lady Zabrina using the last of her magical energy to cast her intent towards the cat. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. And that was Love, Death, Eat, Repeat, numbers 1 and 2 from Scifantasy Ink. Again, another massive shout out to Scifantasy. Thank you so much for sending those out for us to check out here at Geeks Plus. Yeah, it was a very interesting take on the zombie story. Off the bat, I'm absolutely taken with the story because it is based on kind of historical evidence and based on like the idea of like, ooh, how did these bodies end up in this mass grave? What could have happened at this village? There's no records of it, no signs of what happened. what could have taken place there. I love stories like that where it's a prospect of something like that in the real world and trying to find a way to make it work. And not being scared to go into the fantasy, not being scared to go into the supernatural for it, because it's like do I think there was actually a zombie outbreak? Of course not. I don't believe that was an actual thing, but it's a fun story. It's a fun idea, and I love people getting to play with stuff like that in the real world. So that being the kind of basis of the creation of the story, I think is a really fun idea. I like the idea of this curse just kind of taking over and having... They've played with it before, almost kind of like a queen bee, a lead zombie. I think you see it more in supernatural stuff when you're talking about werewolves, of like, you know, oh, to cure yourself of being a werewolf, you have to like kill the person that turned you into a werewolf, and the only way to cure everybody is to go all the way back to the source. It definitely gives me vibes of that, because there's like a head that is being driven, and I love the fact that we still 2 issues in don't really know why. Why was the curse put on her? We get the feeling of that it was to do with the plague doctor did something and put this curse on her, although he seems to be freaked out as everybody else. Almost surprised that this happened, but yet he put the curse on her. So I don't think things have even gone to plan for him. But we don't know why the curse has been put on her, why she's so different. But at the end of the day, it's another take on a zombie story. And I love that they're doing something different with it again, because we always see... There's certain stories that we always see in certain settings. You know, if you go back to these kind of medieval sort of era, like little villages, the gold standard for it is to do a vampire-esque story. And I love the fact that we're going back to this era to do a zombie outbreak, and like, how would they handle a zombie outbreak? Could they handle a zombie outbreak? And just the way that the world is, and even do it in something like Samhain, where it's a Halloween celebration, so like people might not know right away what's going on, or people would think others are just joking, which is still similarities of what happens in the real world. So I thought it was a really interesting setting for it. And in terms of the writing for it, it's a very basic level story. Like, we don't get any in-depth storytelling to this super degree, which I think is intentional, because I think it's one of those things that future issues will probably start to build upon, to build up what's going, like, especially like the way the second issue ended, of like the curse seemingly being transferred to this cat so that it can continue through that. Okay, well, if that's the case and this is passed on like that, I feel like we're going to get a little bit more around the curse and what it was, why it was created. Who is the plague doctor? Why did he put it on her? Who is this council that he apparently needs to talk to? How do they handle a situation like this? So all of that's still to kind of like be answered. So I feel like they're doing a really good job of just taking their time. Sorry, I got up. Oh, eyelash just completely attacked my eye there. I feel like they're taking their time with it, and I feel like that's a good thing. If you've got the space to be allowed to work, don't feel the need to rush something. Let the story breathe, and they're definitely allowing love, sleep, eat, repeat, to just kind of breathe and just be, which I really liked. I will say some of the dialogue and the writing definitely fell off. Like, not a lot. It wasn't like a all the time sort of thing. It wasn't in every part, but there were little pieces here and there that were just like, it felt too modern for a story that's set. And again, I get that it's written from a modern perspective. It's modern writers writing the story, but with a medieval setting, some of the stuff just felt like it was very... The dialogue didn't feel quite right for the setting. And I don't know, it's like it felt a little off. The artwork as well in this, overall I enjoyed the artwork. I like the kind of grungy, messy kind of aesthetic that it had to it. It was a very good choice for a zombie story. My only complaint about it were that it felt like it was too messy sometimes. Like, I get that's the vibe they were going for, but sometimes I felt it was too messy that I couldn't entirely tell what was going on some of the panels. But overall, it was a good choice for a zombie story, though, because it gave that kind of grungy, messy, you know, sort of feel to it, which I think really works for a zombie story. My only other thing with the artwork was there was a definitive kind of change, especially as we got into issue 2. There was a little bit in issue 1, but there was a definite thing like in issue 2, especially with Lady Zabrina, where they started drawing the women more sexily. And for Lady Zabrina, like, I get to a certain extent, because it was a case of like, well, she's running around as a zombie, and it's like she's not really caring about her appearance, so the clothing's getting torn and stuff like that, which is like, okay, I can absolutely get that. She's not really getting covered in any more blood, and it's not like random like rips. It's more like all of a sudden you're very aware that there's a cut in her dress all the way up to like her waist, and seeing her whole leg, and you're very now aware of how tight fitting the dress is. And it was like, and don't get me wrong, like, sex and horror has been one of those things that have been married for a long time. Like, you know, you go to see a slasher film, you're going to see, you know, naked women, you're going to see boobs, you're going to see sex scenes, you're going to see stuff like that. Like, I get there's a definite connection to it. It just felt a bit like, why are we making the main zombie lady, like, sexy? Which, don't get me wrong, if that's what you're into, fair enough, but it's like, it felt very... It felt like it was something that was increasing as the issues went on, and it felt a bit weird. It felt kind of like some of the 1990s comics, where it's like all the women were drawn promiscuously and in very tight attire and very obviously over the top curvy. And there was some moments just like that, mostly from Lady Zabrina and a few of the other women in it. And again, it wasn't all the time, but there was some definite moments that you notice, and it kind of like, it caught me off guard a little, because it felt out of place for where it was put in. Like, it just felt out of place, especially since they didn't look like that all the time, so it wasn't like an artistic choice of like, that's what the character looks like. It was no, you've chosen to draw this extra sexy here for this specific purpose. And it took me out a little bit for that. But overall, like, I thought this was a really interesting read. A very interesting take on a zombie story, very interesting take on a zombie comic. If you're a fan of zombies and a fan of the undead, Night of the Living Dead stuff, if you're a fan of Walking Dead or Avalon, which we've also covered here on the channel, I'll put a little link up to that as well. Definitely check out this and have a look at Scifantasy Ink. I'll put the links down below. See what you think of the other stuff they've got available and the other stuff that's out there. I don't think you'll be disappointed by it, and I'm definitely super excited to check out more of their stuff and to see what else Scifantasy has on offer. This was definitely a really interesting first outing. Not the best of the best that I've ever read, but like, it was definitely an enjoyable read though. You know, there's definitely comics I've reviewed on here I would say just avoid, and this wasn't one of them. This was an enjoyable read. So go and check it out for yourself. Go hit up their socials, I'll leave down below. Go and hit up their website, check out some of their stuff for yourself and see what you think. Let us know down below in the comments what you thought of the comic. Did you like the story? Did some of the artwork stand out to you? What would you like to see going forward from a series like this? Please leave your comments down below. Remember, if you've enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have all had an amazing day and had an amazing week, and I hope you're all set for a great weekend, and we will see you all next week. Remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care. I'll see you all next time. Peace.